Welcome again. My name is Geoffrey, and I would like to take you through what we call the stylistic devices used in literature. To begin with, I will first of all let you understand what stylistic devices are. That stylistic devices are styles of writing that are used to bring about aesthetics in literature. That there is that beauty of language that is realized when we use various stylistic devices. Among them, we have what we call the figurative language. When we talk about figurative language, it is clear that this is any way of saying something other than the ordinary way. You say something in a different way rather than saying it in an ordinary way. Remember that figurative language is language used or that uses what we call figures of speech. That language uses figures of speech like the use of irony. When you use irony, it is the use of figurative language. Another example of stylistic devices that we ought to understand is metaphors. The use of metaphors also bring about aesthetics in writing or in literature. A metaphor is a comparison used to add descriptive meaning to a phrase without using the words like or as. In simple terms, it is a direct comparison. Like if you compare a person with a lion, directly you say that he is a lion, which means that the person is brave. Another example is similes. When we talk about similes, they are related to metaphors, but the difference is similes use the words like or as for comparison. When they use these words, for example, if we compare somebody with a lion, we say that he is as brave as a lion, or he behaves like a lion. That means that the comparison uses the words as or like. We also have another stylistic device that we have to consider, and that is what we call charactonym. Charactonym is when the name of a character has a symbolic meaning. The name of a character has a symbolic meaning. That means that the device that is used is called charactonym. That the name of a character has a symbol meaning in the writing or in literature. There's another device that we call symbol. The use of symbol. A symbol may be an object, it could be a person, it could be a situation, an action, or a word or an idea that has literal meaning in the story. For example, a person can say, "It broke my heart," instead of "I was really upset." And now the heart here is used as a symbol. The heart is used as a symbol in this particular statement. Rather than saying, "I was really upset," a person says that it really broke my heart. So, but a stylistic device that we have to consider. This stylistic device is called allegory. Allegory is a story that has a second meaning. A story with a second meaning, usually by endowing characters, objects, or events with symbolic significance. That when you realize a story with a second meaning, rather than the meaning that can be understood, or the first meaning, or the obvious meaning, a story can have a second meaning. And the aim is to endow the characters, the objects or events with what you call symbolic significance. And that is an allegory. is so evident in literature. We also have imagery. The use of imagery is also evident and rampant in literature. This is when the author invokes sensory details. Often, this is simply to draw a reader more deeply into a story by helping a reader visualize what is being described. However, imagery may also symbolize important ideas in a story. That when important ideas are symbolized in a story, imagery can be used to bring out the understanding. When the author invokes sensory details, uh, often it is simply to draw a reader more deeply into a story by helping a reader visualize what is being described. That you get the picture of what is happening, of how events unfold, and everything else, every detail that happens within a story comes into your mind, that you're able to see whatever that is happening in form of a picture in your mind, and that is imagery. There is also what we call motif. Motif, when we talk about motif, this is when a word, a phrase, image, or idea is repeated throughout a work or several works of literature. That particular repetition of a word, the repetition of a phrase, the repetition of an image or idea is repeated throughout a work or several works of literature. And that is what we call motif. There is also what we call paradox. And paradox is an apparent contradiction that is nevertheless somehow true. Paradox can take the form of an oxymoron. It can also emulate what we call irony, or we can say that a paradox can take the form of an oxymoron, overstatement, or understatement. It can also blend into what we call irony. Apart from having these stylistic devices, under this we also have another category that we call sound techniques. The sound techniques, most of them used in poetry, are as follows. For example, we have the use of rhyme. Remember, the repetition of identical or similar sounds, usually accented vowel sounds and succeeding consonant sounds, at the end of words and often at the end of lines of prose or poetry, is what we refer to as rhyme. That some words can be repeated at the end of lines or sounds having similar sounds. Words having similar sounds can be repeated at the end of lines in a poetry or in poetry, that is in a given poem, and that shows rhyme. There could be what we call rhyme scheme, especially in a poem we call uh, paper one poem. That is in paper one English. There is a poem that we call a structural poem, which shows exactly the rhyme, or we call it a rhyme scheme. When a particular sounds are repeated at the end of each line to bring about a given pattern of rhyme scheme. So as we continue, we have to realize that apart from having rhyme in poetry, we also have what we call repetition. And repetition, this is the deliberate use of a word or phrase more than once in a sentence or a text to create what we call a sense of pattern or form, to emphasize certain elements on the mind of the reader. So repetition can be of words, can be of phrases, it can be of lines, among others. And apart from that, we also have alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words, uh, particularly in poems. When consonant sounds are repeated at the beginning of words in the same line, that shows what we call alliteration. And we also have an example of alliteration, like we can say, many a man is making. For example, when you look at that line, we have what we call letter M, which is a consonant sound, which forms a consonant sound repeated at the beginning of words in the same line. Remember that there is what we call effectiveness. Effectiveness of alliteration in a poem is that it creates what we call emphasis. In addition, it can add beauty to the writing style, or what we call aesthetics in writing. There is also what we call assonance. Assonance, when you talk about assonance, it refers to the repetition of vowel sounds in the middle of words on the same line in a poem. When vowels are repeated in the middle of words, that is what we call assonance. And I can give an example like butter that mattered. When you look at letters the vowels letters which produce vowel sounds are repeated in the middle of each word. There is also another example, blue bulging plug. Blue bulging plug, letter A, letter U, sound A is repeated in those words. There is also what you call consonants. When we talk about consonants, under this is also the repetition of consonant sounds at the end of words. When consonant sounds are repeated at the end of words, they give us what we call assonance. Not assonance, but consonants. So consonants, an example I can give is odds and ends. So sound S, which is a consonant sound, is repeated at the end of those words. And we also have another example, short and sweet. Sound Ch is repeated at the end of those words to show that that is consonants. So there's a formula that we have to use for us to understand the arrangement of these particular sounds, that is from alliteration, assonance, and consonants. They go in that order. When you use a formula of this particular word, Alaska, Alaska, which stands for alliteration, assonance, and consonants. According to their definitions and understanding, is that alliteration, as it is at the beginning of this particular word, Alaska, is the repetition of a consonant sound coming at the beginning of words. And assonance, as you can see in the word Alaska, it is in the middle, which means that it is the repetition of vowel sounds appearing in the middle of words. And consonance is at the end of the word Alaska, which means that it is the repetition of consonant sounds at the end of words. There is something that you need to understand in this particular illustration, that it is only assonance that has the vowel sounds, but both alliteration and consonants have what we call the repetition of consonant sounds. It is only the middle one, which is assonance, that has the repetition of vowel sounds. Thank you for your time. God bless you.